Hey, welcome to Graphic Policy Television, GPTV. I'm Brett. In my hands is one of the graphic novels I've been super excited about that's come out this week. It is The Black Panther Party, a graphic novel history. I want to get the name completely right. This is really interesting. It is the history of the Black Panther Party done in graphic novel form, and I think it's excellent. It is a great way to learn the history of such an important movement that has ramifications and ripples to today. So it's written by David F. Walker, and then art, colors, letterings by Marcus Kwame Anderson. It's really good. I mean, it's really solid. And I will start off in saying is like I kind of know the basics of the Black Panther Party, but like I don't know tons of the specifics. You know, I knew that there was more controversial, that there was a lot of work done to slander the party and turn the opinions of the public negative against them. Some of it was well deserved. A lot of it was not. The party also had done excellent work and a lot of work in community. That they did a lot of programs to help their community. And the things that I also know, like that part of the reason of California's rather strict gun laws at the time, signed by Ronald Reagan, was due to the Black Panther Party. That the elected officials and Reagan decided that black people with guns was a bad thing, so they went and put in one of the strongest pieces of legislation to prevent that. Kind of funny how that works, and Reagan's flip years later and being so pro NRA and guns. Wonder if race had anything to do with that. But it's a really interesting. It clearly did. Really interesting graphic novel, and I think it does a fantastic job of taking you through the history, the good, the bad. It doesn't really have opinions as so much as does what it can to put out the facts that it can find. And I have to assume that the facts are right. There's a nice bibliography in the back. I'm not an expert in the Black Panther, so maybe someone who knows a little bit more about their history would be kind of really interesting to get their opinion on it. But for me, like coming into it, like I feel much more educated. There's a lot of people to keep track of. There's a lot of dates. It's fairly dry. I'll fully admit. But that's kind of the point. Like it's there for education, not necessarily entertainment. But it's really good. Like it flows well. It's just one of those things is like, hey, in 1967 this happened. Here's some important people. Blah blah blah. This is kind of the ramifications of it. This is what led up to it. In 1968 this happened. Like it's not the exciting people in spandex punching each other. Nor should it. But it does I think a really solid job of putting out who is the important players. What their background was. And I think the big thing of the graphic novel that I really like, and I think David F. Walker does an amazing job, is he keeps on... throughout, he points out the reasons for why things were the way they were. It starts off with the history of racism in the United States, and, it tracks that to these individuals and how they came together in California to start the Black Panther Party, and a lot of their families migrated due to racism and were part of like the first migration or the second migration out of the South. Their experiences in California and Oakland and the overly aggressive police, the racist police. And it was that type of thing of like, here's this individual, this is where they're born, this is where their parents were, this is why their parents moved to this location, here was the economic situation. It gives a lot of motivation as to like, here's why things were the way they were. And I think that's really smart, and it helps, I think, connect the dots a little bit more. It's dry, like it's straight up dry, and it feels kind of like a history textbook you might get in school, but with really good artwork. So like way higher than the ones you had in school. But I think it does the necessary job in really explaining the situation for those who did not live through it and don't necessarily know it. I think the other thing that's really done well and smart is that whether or not it's done on purpose, I don't think it's really done on purpose. Let me rephrase that. I don't think this is done on purpose. It's just the sad fact of reality is that Walker kept on emphasizing the plights and the issues that the Panthers were fighting for, and the reverberations is like, not really reverberations, the sad fact is these are the same issues that are being fought today. Black Lives Matters is fighting against police abuse and the murder of fairly innocent individuals or the overreaction by police to stop individuals. And this was the same thing that the Black Panthers were fighting. Like, one of the early things that they discussed is how an individual was shot. You know, the police report said he was shot 3 times while he was running away, except the blood wasn't by his body. He was shot 6 times and shot for indication that his hands were up in the air, surrendering. That has echoes to today. Like, it is something that we still see on the news. It is something we still see people protesting against. So I think it's really interesting, and this is facts and this was history. I don't know if there are other things that were going on at that time that they were dealing with, but like the fact that these were focused on, I think does a really solid job of reminding us that these things that they were fighting for are still being fought for today. Though they formed so many years ago and generally disbanded, that they, the fight continues, and the same issues that they had concerns with, others have concern with, and we have not solved these problems. I think the other thing that Walker does that's really good is he goes through, what was being done by some of the politicians at the time. I mentioned Reagan with the guns and the reaction that legislation was anti-gun legislation was passed in California, and due to the open carry of the Black Panthers. But there was also interesting things that there's like a commission report that was happening that happened after one of the riots that was going on at the time, to say like, why did these riots happen? And I really want to go back and read this commission report, because the commission report points out that it is white supremacy and white dominance that caused this. That ghettos exist because white people tolerate it and white people fund it. Joblessness exists because this is not a priority for white people towards hiring African Americans. A lesser educational experience exists because this is not a priority for the white people, and African Americans were affected by that. It was a really, really interesting report, and Walker points out, it was like, and it was ignored. So I think he does a really solid job of pointing out, like, the anger was justified. Like, you can agree or disagree with the actions and the more militant take by some of the members, but what they were fighting for is what we're fighting for today still, and why they were angry was a completely legit reason to be angry. The other thing I think is really nice is that there's some nice history lessons about the civil rights movement just in general. It compares things to like Martin Luther King's movement and Malcolm X and students associations, and the one thing that I think that was really nice is that there's a part of the book talking about the civil rights movement and the murder of people in that movement, and it's history, but it would have been easy to just show black faces that were murdered. The 50-something people, I forgot what the exact number is, like 50-something individuals that were murdered directly in that movement. Like, some of them were white. The trio of people that caused, that led to the Mississippi burning, like 2 of them were I think both of them were Jewish, but 2 of them were white guys. And then the comic doesn't diminish them. I think it does a really solid job of this is specifically about the Black Panthers and their fight, but they weren't necessarily alone. Some of that's also, I think, emphasized with what we see as the Panthers' legacy, in that there were so many organizations across the world and organizations, even in the United States, that splintered off from them, that weren't just fighting for black individuals and black liberation, but were dealing with their own issues, including the White Panthers, which I don't think I ever knew about. And kind of fascinating to see if that group still exists. But some of those groups still exist that were inspired by the Black Panthers. They outlisted the group that inspired them. So yeah, I mean, it's good. It shows the good. It shows the bad. I think it's a fairly honest depiction of the Black Panther legacy and their history, and the good of their members, the bad of their members, and kind of how it fell apart eventually. and the horrible shit the United States government that went after him. COINTELPRO is I don't want to say a good chunk of the book, but it's a chunk of the book because it is actual real history of the United States government, launched by J. Edgar Hoover to screw over the Black Panthers and the civil rights movement as a whole. This video is going on really long, but this is such as a solid depiction of the history. It's not something that you're gonna go read through and be like, this is the most entertaining thing I've ever read. But it's not supposed to be that. It is a history book done in graphic novel form, and it is awesome because of that. Like, this is a solid way of learning this history. I came away feeling more intelligent, understanding the group more, understanding their history a lot more. I'll admit the specifics haven't stuck in my mind, but, there's a lot of people to remember, and I'm horrible with names, so that's my excuse. But, it's one of those, like, if someone wanted to learn the history, I would put this in their hands. Like, I think this is a solid graphic novel to teach. Like, this is not quite graphic journalism, but definitely in that, like, graphic novel category to, like, educational, like, history book sort of stuff. The art, I think, is really solid. It's just the look of the people, what it depicts. I think it captures the history, the styles really well. It really does feel like the art and the history of the people. And there's some really cool page layouts. Other thing that I like is that the book does take some breaks and does, like, these highlights of some of the more important people of the movement. But it's and the creators of this might see this and think of this as kind of insulting. Like, it's not a dynamic book. Like, it's not this super exciting thing where it takes you through it. Like, the style to this is very different than March. March really took you through an emotional journey. This is more towards textbook, whereas March, I think, leaned more towards the story end of things. And that's not bad at all. Like, this as a textbook, I think, would be a great thing to hand out for anyone that wants to teach history of the Black Panther Party. I feel better and more intelligent, and honestly, I think it's interesting to read just to see be reminded of the fact that this group that was vilified, we are fighting for the same things today that they were all those years ago. Black Lives Matter is still fighting the same fight. Different name, same movement, or same fight, and same issues. So to me, it's a sobering read. It's an educational read, and I think it's well worth picking up for anyone that's it's interested in politics, history, and wants a way to learn more about Black Panthers. Like, I highly recommend this. I think it's so good, and a great graphic novel to start the year. Like, this is the type of stuff I love. Out this week, you can go get it. 10 Speed Press provided me a copy. I really appreciate it. You can go get this at comic shops. There's a link beneath this video. Put in your zip code. They'll tell the shops near you. No shop, no problem. We have affiliate links underneath this video where you can purchase it. They should be affiliate links. I'm assuming they're affiliate links. But if not, there'll just be links in general where you can purchase it. You get it through that. But go support your comic shop first and foremost. And support, again, I want to thank 10 Speed Press for hooking us up. I really appreciate it, and thank you for watching. Now, if you're into graphic novels, if you're into comics, check us out every single day at graphicpolicy.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, all at Graphic Policy. Keep it nice and consistent. Until next time, keep reading those comics and keep it geeky. Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.